So when you're first going to build your fire, you want to open up the fireplace and remove any ash from the last fire you had in there. It's really important to make sure that the ash is completely cooled before doing this. So I usually don't empty it until the morning after I've had a fire. You can use the iron key on top of the fireplace and attach it to that little metal rod in the front of the door and pull. That will open the grate, and you can then use the brush to move all the ash into the container underneath. Any large pieces that don't make it through the grate, you can remove using the shovel, and you want to put all of the discarded ash into the ash bucket. Once the ash bucket is full, completely full, and has been sitting at least overnight and completely cooled, if you need to empty it, you can empty it anywhere on the property, around the outside of the stone patio, outside, just onto the ground or into the garden. It's just really important to make sure that you don't do this when the ash is still hot. It's important to let it sit at least overnight. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can just leave the ash bucket full and we'll have the cleaners empty it. At this stage, once the ash is done, you want to close that grate using that key, pushing that rod back in, and then you can go ahead and start putting in your rolled up newspaper. I usually start with 4 to 5 pieces of this at the bottom of the fireplace. On top of this, we're going to add our small kindling pieces of wood. I like to sort of lay out a little grid using anywhere from 4 to 5 pieces of this. And you put that directly on top of the crumpled newspaper. And then you can go ahead and add your logs on top. I usually start with 2 logs. If they're really small pieces, you can sometimes get 3 in there. It is okay if it's stacked all the way up to the top of the fireplace. You just want to make sure that it's not too tight. And then you can go ahead and light your crumpled newspaper. At this point, I like to close the door, but leave it open just a little bit, resting on the opening. This allows a little bit of air to come in. And at this stage, you also want to make sure that the flue is completely open. So at the front of the fireplace underneath, there is a silver metal bar. You want to pull that all the way down, and that will open up the flue all the way. I like to let this burn this way for a few minutes just to make sure everything is catching. If at any point you are worried that the fire is not catching or starting to go out, you can always add a few more pieces of kindling or newspaper. But usually there's no problem with getting the fire started. This stove has a really great system that makes it really efficient and makes it light really easily. You'll start to notice once the flames really start to take and get going that they almost curl up towards the front of the fireplace and then over the inside lip. And that is a really cool circulation system that this stove features. It starts to recirculate its own hot air as the fire burns, which is what keeps the fire burning longer, stops it from going out, keeps the heat really even, and makes it really, really easy to light. So you can see the flames are really starting to catch here, and you can start to see a little bit of the lick of those flames starting to go towards the top lip of the inside of that fireplace. So that's what we're looking for. At this point, once it's fully caught, you can go ahead and close the door all the way. And once this has burned for a few more minutes, you can shut the flue, which is that bar underneath, about halfway, which will just limit the air a little bit inside, allowing the fire to burn a little bit longer and a little bit less hot. Usually a fire like this will burn pretty easily for a few hours. Once it starts going out, you actually don't need to put any more kindling usually. You can just throw another log in and it will relight.